Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone online, wherever we may be. I guess we are scattered around the globe, so any of the greetings will go. I welcome you all to this webinar on cocoa ontology. My name is Teresa Ampadubuache. I work with IITA, specifically with the CocoaSoils project, as the monitoring and evaluation specialist, and I will be your facilitator for this session of the webinar. This session will be looking at a presentation on the objectives, the content of the ontology, and I have colleagues online who will be doing that. May I request my colleagues under 2 minutes to quickly do a self-introduction, the name, the organization, and what you're doing on CocoaSoils, please. Yes, so I'll start with Ekaterina, Abidame, those who are doing the presentation for this session. Can you please introduce yourselves?
Good afternoon. My name is Abidame Elesho. I work with Wagner Environmental Research, and I work on the CocoaSoils project.
Good afternoon. My name is Arun Pratyas. I also work in Wagner Environmental Research.
Hello, I'm Sanna Janse. I'm the last presenter today. I'm also working in Wagner Environmental Research.
Good. Thank you, colleagues, for the introduction. As we all know, CocoaSoils is spearheading this process or called activity. And then many of us, we already know a bit about CocoaSoils, but just a brief on it. The project is basically looking at increasing productivity in cocoa farms, increasing incomes of smallholder farmers, and again, ensuring efficient use of resources. And with all of this, we also look at reducing cocoa-driven deforestation and child labor. We have two main components of this project, looking at research for development and partnership for delivery. With these two, we have quite a number of trials being implemented with all our partners, huge data coming in. Through partnerships, we have other partners interested in using this data and learning from it. And we all thought that this would be a good moment to have ontology, to be able to guide our data usage and then learning in general. So basically, that is the reason for us having this session. As I initially said, the session will be an introduction to the entire document, presentations from our three colleagues who have already introduced themselves. At the end, we will have a pool of about 3 questions to have an idea of what we think about the whole process. And then we'll also have a chance to have clarifications if we have questions. With that, I will plead that we raise our hands, we can see that, and then I will call the specific person to ask the question. If we don't, we can also go to the chat window, and then we put our questions in there. Before we start, we want to know who is around. We cannot allow all of us to have our names, organizations mentioned. So please quickly take a minute. Let's all go to the chat window. We will have 2 questions there. One is about our location. Please select and submit your vote. And then 2 is about whether you are working in the cocoa sector. We just want to have an idea of who is part of this webinar and what kind of platform we have here for our learning. So I will pause for just a minute as we do that. And then at the end, I'll just give us an idea of who is around. Yeah.
How do I do this?
Please go to the chat window. Depending on how your screen is, we can all locate our chat windows. We go there, and then we see the 2 questions, which we can vote. Salam, I believe everyone can see, right?
Yes. Yes, everyone can see in the chat window.
Okay, thank you. Please, as one of the process to also aid the webinar, if we are not talking and we can all keep our microphones muted, it will help us to have a clearer understanding and the presentation.
So, Loma, I don't see the poll.
It's up. It's high up because the messages of everybody joining, so you have to scroll up to find it. It was uploaded at 12:48 p.m. So.
Yeah, sorry. I think you have to upload it again. I can't see it. I think you can only see it once you've joined you only see what's added after you've joined the meeting. I don't know. I don't see it.
Okay. Salam, you can do that again.
Oh, here we go.
Can't find it either.
Okay.
Yes, all the way at the top. That was where I actually looked at. But Salam, please do it again.
Okay, but I have people submitting responses. So.
It is there. You just need to scroll until it stops.
Sure. Okay, I found it.
Yeah. So we give ourselves just a minute more. Hello, Nick. Please, you have a... Okay.
No, I was just fighting with the controls.
Sorry about that. That's fine. Good. So probably we can end it. Colleagues coming in later. Maybe you just miss it, but that's okay. So far we have 31 responses, and they cut across Africa 45%. Then we have Europe 45%. Then we have South Asia 6%. South America, sorry, 6%. Then Asia 3%. So basically that is what we have. So at least we have a good number of representation cutting across different locations. Then for whether we are participating in the cocoa sector, working within the cocoa sector, we have about 66% of us working within the cocoa sector and 33% not working there. But this, we have only 3 responses. So this means we are still not able to do that. Probably we are not there yet, but due to time, maybe we can just skip that and move on to the presentations. At least we can do the polls at the end again. Yeah. So thank you all for that one. And then I'll probably hand over to my colleagues to start with the presentation. Yeah. So Arun, yeah.
Thank you. I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah, you share your screen, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abidemi.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
And I'll be presenting alongside my colleagues, Arun and Sanda from Agronomy Environmental Research. And this afternoon, we are presenting the Cocoa Ontology, efforts that have been made so far, and with the hope of getting feedbacks to further improve the ontology and make it widely acceptable by the community. The outline for the presentation is the aim and objectives, the conceptualization and design for the Cocoa Ontology, applications, conclusions and recommendations. Cocoa research. Cocoa is a major global commodity and its production involves millions of smallholders, farmers. Number of programs for cocoa initiatives in the past include CocoaSoils, Cocoa Cloud, Cocoa Action. These are programs that are being implemented to address some of the challenges that that is associated with cocoa cultivation. A recent publication that was published by Guyan stipulates some of these challenges, and this is what we are seeing, that the production of cocoa is actually running low, and effort needs to be put in place to address some of these challenges. Challenges in data sharing. Many cocoa experimental data sets end up in separate repositories in various formats, often with missing headings and contextual information. Most of these data sets lack sharing protocols and makes collaborative reuse of data much more difficult. It creates barriers in data discovery, data gathering, managing, and harmonizing of these different data sources from different sources. Urgent need for data sharing solutions needs to be put in place to actually improve cocoa economic, social, and sustainability. Take for instance, why do we need data sharing? If we look at what we have here, we have a picture that depicts the various sockets that you find across the globe. In EU, for example, can you move forward? In EU, you find most of the standard you find are the ones identified in green, while in other parts of the world, you find some of these things. So, and on the right, you could see the EU plug. If you are in EU, fine, you don't have a problem. You are safe, it's going to work. But imagine you are going where they are using a different set of sockets, and you don't have an adapter with you. How do you address this challenge? And to be able to surmount this challenge, you probably need an adapter. And this sounds like a bridge builder. So wherever you find yourself, you are rest assured that you will be able to make use of electricity because you have a source that is going to connect you to the power socket, which is what we are trying to do with the ontology. The ontology is like a bridge builder, it's like a bridge. It does not really matter what data or what initiative is being done, so long as we align ourselves to the different initiatives or the different standard that has been defined by the ontology. And that's kind of address the challenges of data reusability. So ontology is a universal adapter in data sharing domain, and synonyms of ontology includes dictionary, glossary, logical models, standards, thesaurus, topics map, and vocabulary. What is an ontology? An ontology is a formal representation of disciplinary domain representing a semantic standard that can be employed to annotate data where key concepts are defined, as well as the relationship that exists between these concepts and the constraints are defined. Ontologies provide a common language for different kinds of data to be easily interpretable and interoperable, allowing easy aggregation and analysis. What is cocoa ontology? Cocoa ontology is a formalized concept and properties of cocoa agronomy for shareable and reusable knowledge representation. Cocoa ontology is about relationships between cocoa agronomy and concepts. Cocoa ontology, it's about constraints, definition of constraints, and how these constraints affect each relationship that has been defined within the ontology. It also talks about the individual member of this concept for the various cocoa agronomy concepts. The main aim of the cocoa ontology is to develop a cocoa ontology that is designed by all, accepted by all, and used by all. While our objectives include define, describe, and standardized vocabulary, concepts, and relations between cocoa farming system and components, formalize knowledge about cocoa agronomy and production process, and improve the communications among all stakeholders, where all stakeholders are speaking the same language and ambiguities are gotten rid of. So at this point, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Arun, to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Abidemi. So we have used a collaborative approach to design this ontology. First, we have the first exploration in 2019, where the group of experts like agronomists, software developer, researchers, we all sit together and review the existing protocols about the ontology and develop a mind map. After that, we revised and working with the different session. I think we organized almost 5 one-to-one online sessions to develop a first person, and then we organized 2 workshops to further revise the person. After that, we distributed our first draft within our consortium members, and we received the feedback, and then we further improved it. And then this year, beginning of this year, we also present this within our broader stakeholder team, and then we gather the feedback, and now we have further circulated, improved, and further improved the versions. So we have really adopted the agile approach and try to capture all the stakeholder view in this ontology development process. Okay, so how it has been done and how the reviews has been consolidated. You can see the first image where we had the mind maps. We tried to gather all the semantics and ontology classes, what we can capture. And then we developed the first draft, which was reviewed by 20 experts. We incorporated all the feedbacks and again developed the second draft, which called version, which was again reviewed by the 25 independent experts. And then third draft was reviewed by 35 experts. So now we have a more or less shareable versions, but as we mentioned, it is livable document. So we need the further input from all of you to be accepted and used by all. So let me give you a small example how we have constructed this ontology. So for example, this is the farm. So this farm may belong to the person. This person may be a farmer or maybe belong to the certain institute. So it may be the experimental farm for a particular institute. This farm may have a geolocation. This geolocation may fall under a certain agroecological zone. This zone belongs to the certain country. So, and these farms may have some trees, the tree, shade tree, or cocoa tree. These trees have the phenologies, and the farmer does some management practice in their farm. For example, fertilizer management. So these all are the classes, and within the class, it has the subclass and child classes. And these all are related to each other. And in that way, we can link from one class to another class, which makes more usable. This is how it has been represented in software. It is a bit small to read, but just want to give you the how the classes and the relationship have been established here. We have also put everything, all software and also the draft version ontology to free download so that you can also download and play around. We have used projects of free software to develop it so that everybody can use it. I want to demonstrate you quickly how it works. So for example, this is the software where you can display it. This is Cacao ontologies, and these are all the subclasses. When you so you can see this is the, for example, this cacao tree. You can expand on and has subclasses. You can see the subclasses, Cocoa ontology, Cocoa tree, and then you can further explore on the what are the subclasses it has. So and so you can see it has like Cocoa ontology, Cocoa tree, and it has further subclasses. I just want to show you one more. For example, tree. So tree has also biomass, branches, branch order, some other thing. So we can just play around, we just clear everything. If you want to load it, you just click it, and we can further expand, has the classes. So you can see which are the classes. You can click this one to rearrange it, and then you can go on it. And if you, this shows like which kind of relationship are there, one class to another classes. So I have placed all the link here, so everybody can download and just play around and see how the classes and everything has been interlinked. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. So how it can be really helpful for the data sharing, that is the main question. So we have, for example, within the CocoaSoil, we want to not only collect the data, but we also want to really develop the knowledge portal for the data sharing. So this is our building blocks. First block, we have the data collection module where researchers, farmers, extension officers are using ODK to collect the different kind of data on core trial and satellite trial. This data set has been stored in our ODK database. And then we have a data storage and analysis module where we do different kind of data science and data analytics on the existing data. Then we want to make a GeoNetwork or different open platform to visualize it and publish the data. But this all data, we want to map it in the Cocoa ontological class format so that it can be clearly represent and it makes it easier for sharing and the reuse of this data. Now I want to invite our colleague Sander for the further explanation on the potential uses.
Thanks, Arun, for this introduction. We have all this, now that we are building all this. What we really stressed a couple of times is that we are not building this alone as an institute in Wageningen, but also interacted with a lot of experts. So it should be really known to everybody and be available as a tool for everybody. And if we succeed in that, then what we hope, and that's the hope now, and we hope to prove it in the next years, is that it really can support a lot of different types of applications in the cocoa sector, and also improve the discoverability of the cocoa related data, and that's that we can have a better translation of what is happening in the domain towards the data. In this way, we can build more analytical applications, and that we should help the sector to have more insight in what's going on. And we can also reduce the cost and time of this application development so that they are cheaper to make and they are faster available. And finally, if this starts happening in the community, it starts to be a reference point for future developments that everybody sort of shares or follows and is involved in. The data quality, it's a very, from our experience, is often neglected, but important, but also boring aspect of all this. If we can improve this through this ontology by using the same word, by using tighter definitions, then it really makes it easier to know which data you can trust and build your applications on, and which results you can trust from your analytical applications, and which you cannot, or you have more doubts or there's more uncertainty, which is for everybody working with data or trying to interpret what data means. It's really a core thing. And I think this is, for example, also clear in the current COVID pandemic, where there's a lot of discussions about what do all these tests mean and how reliable is this and all this. So that's what we're trying to counter with having the shared ontology and the shared concepts and relationships, and thereby making the application stronger. So thanks. And then to close our presentation, here's some conclusions and recommendations. So with the Cocoa ontology, we have the standardized vocabulary, concepts and relationships between concepts in the cocoa agronomy and production process. While developing it, we looked at complementarity with existing vocabularies like FAO, AgroVoc, and the CJA crop ontologies, and we also interacted with the specialists there to see what they are doing and how we can do it. What's really important for the next step is that we start that we keep on working as a community. So we consult a lot of experts, we get a lot of insights from all of them, and now we really want to make the next step of having it used by the broader communities and having it available as a tool. We are working on releasing this soon, so we're now going through the final round of feedback that we all received, and we will make an official release with an official URL on top of it, so that it can act as a reference point with versions. So, and hereby I want to close and thank you for your attention. This wasn't possible, of course, without all the support we got from all the experts. Here you can see a list of the different contributing institutions. So thanks all for that. And we are looking forward to continue the collaborations on these points. And we're looking forward also to the discussion which is coming next on what you all think about this and having some reactions to it.
Good. Thanks, colleagues, for the wonderful presentation. I guess we have some few minutes to look at any clarifications that we may have. And then we also have some 3 questions still within the chat window. We have close to 70 participants. So can we please take a few moments to quickly look at those 3 questions, and then just a poll, a minute will do or 2, just to have idea from all of us. And then at the moment, if we have any clarifying questions, please, you can raise your hand or you send the question through the chat window.
Teresa, it
Yes,
appears
Stefan.
that the poll does not accept the vote of guests. Each time I click on something, an error occurs and I have to try again. I can repeat that endlessly. It seems that only people who are not labeled as guests can actually vote.
Yeah, I can see quite a number of errors appearing here. Salom, is that the case?
Yes, I'm trying to rectify it, but I don't know if it's the CG system that is allowing causing this, but I'm trying to fix it.
Okay. Then we might only have the votes of people who are not labeled as guests for the moment. Yeah. So do we have any hands raised, Salom?
So there's one hand raised, Teresa. Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth. Yes. So Elizabeth, please go ahead with your question. You can either direct to one of the colleagues or to the team, and I guess any of them can respond. Elizabeth, please kindly unmute and go ahead with your question. I'm not sure. Arun, are you hearing from Elizabeth, or I'm the only person?
No, we cannot hear from her.
Yeah.
I think her microphone is muted.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe to type the question?
Yes. If the microphone is disturbing, maybe Elizabeth, you can quickly type the question in the window, chat window. Okay. I'm not sure the questions are coming, so we can just look at our responses for the pool that we have. And the first question is, do you agree that cocoa-related research is fragmented and data is poorly used? So far, we have 20 responses, and 80% of us agree. So we have quite some work to do there out of that response. I guess most of the errors are affecting our responses, the rate, but we can generalize with what we have so far. Then the second one is standardization is just a boring process, oh my, which will slow down innovation. Let's see what we have there if we've been able to do it. So far, we have 17 responses and 52% disagree strongly. So 52% of us think that it is not a boring process, I guess. So, and finally, more innovative research is possible when data is shared freely. We will want to say whether we have some responses there. We have 19 of us responding to that. 63% saying strongly agree with that one as well. So this brings us to the end of this session. If we don't have any clarifying questions again, I'll hand over to Ken to start the panel discussions. So thank you so much, team, for the wonderful work, and thank you all participants. Ken, I hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Teresa. So we've asked a few people to join a panel this afternoon. So maybe if I can ask them to open up their cameras and their microphones. So that's Nick Cryer from Mondelez. We've got Moses Ogunlade from CRIN, Katarina from Wageningen, Stefan Hauser from ITA, and Arun. Yeah. So if you guys would like to be on camera. So I'd like to start with a question then to Nick. And I know, Nick, you've already been involved in discussions around the ontology. But what do you see as the value of an ontology tool like this to industry and to your work in Mondelez? You're on mute, I think, at the moment, Nick. I could hear you before when we did the test, but no longer.
How about now?
Yes.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on today. So for us, the value of the ontology tool is all about standardization of data and vocabulary. We support R&D work on agronomy and breeding as part of our Cocoa Life program. And we work with many different partners, and everybody has different ways of describing similar things. So having a standard language and a standard format for exchanging data is incredibly valuable to us.
So do you think it'll, I mean, how do we get this widely used by industry? Do you think it has use beyond just research?
Absolutely. I think the value comes from extending this beyond the cocoa soil field trials. You know, the kind of to standardize information on maybe sustainability, agroforestry, landscape approaches to cocoa farming. There's a tremendous opportunity out there to have better access to data that is then, you know, exchangeable, interpretable, and you're able to combine information from many different sources.
So, I mean, you've heard the presentation. I mean, do you have any specific requests or questions back to the development team and to the people who are involved in putting this together at the moment?
So I think it was a very good presentation. I'm really pleased that you've got that URL up there so we can all go and have a look and play around with this. Taking this out to as wide a possible audience as possible, I think is very important. So using World Cocoa Foundation, ICCO and others to do that would be really good. That's it, really. Okay,
we can come back to you later if you have any other questions to ask the other panelists. So Moses, I don't see your camera on at the moment. I don't know if you can unmute yourself and show your picture. We tested before and it was working.
The camera is on.
Not
the camera is on.
No, we don't see you.
The camera is on.
Not yet. Keep trying.
The camera is on.
No. But maybe just.
Can you see me now?
We can't see you at the moment, or I can't.
So the camera is on. I don't know why.
Okay.
The
well,
camera
it was working. It was working a minute ago. Anyway, Moses, sorry we can't see you, but could you maybe tell us what you think this ontology has in terms of value for you working in CRIN, the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, of course?
Yes. Cocoa ontology is very, very useful. It will improve communication among all stakeholders. It gives all stakeholders the possibility of speaking the same language as it has been presented. And with this, ambiguities will be eliminated. For instance, when I talk about chupon in Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, when my colleague also is talking about cocoa chupon elsewhere, as a result of this standardization, we are on the same page. When I talk about the crown depth of cocoa, we know what we are talking about. So it removes ambiguity. That's one of the importance of this cocoa ontology.
Okay. No, that's really good.
In addition, there are increasing cocoa initiatives and cocoa programs. A number of data will be generated from all these initiatives. And with oncology, we will be able to share the data and
You've gone quiet. Have we lost you? I don't know if it's just me, but I've lost sound, I think, from Moses at the moment.
Yeah. We also.
I'll come back to you, Moses, hopefully. Maybe with another.
Is that right?
Oh, you're there again? So, Moses, I just wanted to ask you, do you think you'll be able to convince your colleagues within CRIN to use this as well, and we can get it beyond just the people who've been involved? Because I know you've been involved yourself in the development.
This is cracking. I can hear you clearly. Can you come again?
So I'll try once more. So do you think you can convince your colleagues at CRIN, other people, the breeders and others working with cocoa, to actually use this ontology? How can we get others to use it as well?
It's very easy to convince them because we are doing the work together. I'm just representing them in CocoaSoils. And I was also involved. And I'm also involved in the ontology development, the cocoa ontology development. So it's like CRIN is also part of it. We develop it together, so we are going to use it together. Is accepted by us as well.
Excellent. And maybe come back to you, Moses. So I'd like to move on to Ekaterina. So your work's really essential to the implementation of trials and data collection within CocoaSoils. So how does the ontology help, and how is it being used?
Yeah, hi Ken, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I must say that it has been like a mutual interaction among the development of the ontology and with the use of the protocol. So I think that the protocol has used a lot of the ontology terminology. So now for data collection in these terms that they are using the, let's say, like the variables, the attributes that ontology provides.
Okay, so there was a question from Elizabeth Anna from Biodiversity Alliance about whether the field books were using the ontology. Abidemi already answered it, but I think Elizabeth was trying to jump in before. But she's saying there, she's talking here about the alignment with other ontologies. So I don't know, Arun, if you want to answer this. I mean, when is an ontology complete? When can we consider it complete? When can we make sure that it's aligned with other people's ontologies?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ken.
Arun, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you? Hi,
So
Ken.
maybe, can you see there's a question in the chat?
Yeah.
About other ontologies, a technical question for you. But in a sense, my question to you is, when is an ontology finished? Or is it always in development?
Yeah, of course, and this is one of the, let's say, problem of agile development process, that you want to keep improving and improving. But from our side, I think we have captured most of the variables and classes within the COCO domain. And I think we are now working on the revision. And I think this version is more or less okay to go for the use. And as you say, like, we can easily add different classes. So it is not harm that when we have the next version, this version will collapse. No, it will be like just expanded. So.
Okay, so you think it's ready for dissemination and use and testing now?
Yeah.
So Sander, you go ahead. You want to jump in? Yeah,
I mean, to answer your question, unfortunately, it's sort of never finished in a more philosophical way. But it's, and I think we can get to a version that's stable for 1 year. But it's really about having a clear version and control management, so that we can take in new ideas and suggestions. So that's the next step in our process. So now, as Arun said, we can release a mature version which captures all of what's needed now in our perception. But of course, this is not a starting point, we think, for the community to also make new versions. And I think the offer from Elizabeth to go through this with the what she calls the Alliance Ontology team, it sounds great, Elizabeth, is a very good step to see how we can also make the connections very strong with the others, with the other ontologies. And that's an ongoing process, I would also say.
Okay, I mean, this is part of the process then that we're in now. I mean, getting comments and feedback. Stefan, you look like you've been around for a long time. So you've been involved in developing the ontology, and do you think there are still gaps to be filled? You've worked with Coco yourself for a long time. I can't hear you yet.
Of course.
I can't hear you.
You should be hearing me.
There's a little button somewhere. Oh yeah, sure. Well done.
I would say, as Sander said, an ontology is never really complete. That means there are always gaps that can be filled. But looking at the system we have at the moment, the gaps are more in the smaller details. The overall framework appears very complete. But assume climate change, new pests, new diseases come in, attack cocoa. You will have to expand. Cocoa areas may go out of production, other areas go into production. You talk about other agroecologies, you need to expand. Insofar, it is quite helpful if many projects are using the ontology, more data are being collected, because that gives you all the opportunities to expand as much as our knowledge is. So every piece of research, every change in the system, every appearance or disappearance of features in the system will require filling those gaps.
So, I mean, we're talking here about communication and language. And of course, a lot of cocoa is grown in other than Anglophone countries. We have a lot of cocoa grown in Asia, Indonesia, in Latin America. So should we be expecting alongside the English language ontology a Spanish translation and a French translation for our colleagues in Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon and Peru, of course, and Colombia. And who'd like to answer that one? Nobody. What are the plans? Sander?
I can go, yes, Ken, of course we should have. I think one of the really strong points of AgroVoc is that it is multilingual. So that's we noticed that in other projects that that it enables translation to many different languages. We have to align with the AgroVoc team whether they have all the ontology related terms. So there's some alignment work to do, but that would be a strong feature that we need to build out. But first we need a stable English one, I would say, as a starting point, and then we can go to the other languages. So we don't want to do that while in full discussion on some of the things still.
No, sure. But then, so the AgroVoc is the FAO vocabulary then for
yes. Yeah, and it came a lot out of the library world where they used thesauri to classify books and all this stuff, and then this way they had many translations of the same terms. So we have to check how they did that for all the ontology relevant thing, for the cacao related thing. I don't think that there's not much on cacao, so that's a conversation to have to also to learn from them, not to make mistakes in how we do this.
Sure. I mean, I guess we start often very much from cereal crops, and then it has to be expanded to include the perennials and the like. I don't see a huge number of questions coming through in the chat, or apart from Elizabeth's question and comments. Are there any other people who'd like to raise their hands?
Hey everyone.
Yeah?
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. I was just raising my hand. If I may ask a question.
Yeah, please.
Manuel here from Mondelez CocoaLife program. I wanted to ask if you guys have any experience already with the response from other actors when you approach them to ask them using this ontology and some of the definitions. So in our experience, sometimes when we work with implementers or suppliers who work in this field, and they have their specific definitions, and there's a certain history attached to that they feel tied to and sold to, and it can be difficult for them to make switches to new ontologies or new definitions, and there's some resistance in that. So have you any experience how to overcome this, or any responses so far?
So who'd like to answer this one? Arun, you've had some iteration with different companies, I know already. Thanks very much for your question, Manuel.
Yeah, thanks, Manuel. Yeah, it's a bit of as you see, it's difficult to change the vocabulary for each, but we try to. I think it is also beneficial for them to have a common vocabulary, and that's why I think we have quite a bit of iteration with them, and then we have come up with the common names.
So you're basically taking advice as you go along, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nick, do you want to come in at this point? I see your hands there. I'm sorry, we're muted again, you know.
It's in the same vein, actually. I was wondering if you had a vision for how to take this out into the broader world, you know, maybe a theory of change, so we could map out what would need to be done, how would it be done, what resource would be required.
I think that's a really useful suggestion, actually. I mean, I know that we've had all sorts of discussions about the type of people we should try and engage with, and I mean, you sent me a mail today with a list of suggestions there, Nick, which is very helpful. So how about the development team? How about your theory of change, Sander?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great suggestion. So, and I really can see the point of Manuel and Nicholas on this. So, and I think we from our experience want to tread carefully. So we don't want to force this on people and get them annoyed. And it should be somehow a sort of organic growth into an organization. But I think there's maybe some work to be done to find out and have some interviews with the people, like what their obstacles might be and what we could do to overcome them very practically in the future, and in this way make the adoption of this innovation sort of easier for people. And then, yeah, of course, we can't do everything. So there's some things that we can and cannot do to facilitate this, but we can out what sort of perceived obstacles exist with this.
Okay.
And yeah, we're very open to do that in the next steps, and to learn there. And I think this, when we have that a bit, we could indeed develop such a theory of change or of future directions more clearly with the different fora involved in this.
Yeah. So I take from your comment there, Sander, that actually identifying what barriers there might be, of course, will be an important part of that theory of change. I see Richard Asari had his hand up. It's just disappeared again. Richard, please.
Yes, I mean, the unique nature of CocoaSoils is that we have a consortium of members, and actually we have also in the countries, the 4 countries in West Africa, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire, the regulators, the Cocoa Board, also have given us support. And anything with cocoa, it's very much important to deal with the policymakers. And so in these countries, if we are able to get the policymakers to adopt this ontology and then try to lead its use, it would be a great thing. So we are in the process of now engaging the policymakers in these countries through our policy dialogue on the partnership for delivery part of CocoaSoils, to also make sure that together with our private sector partners, we have this dialogue with the policymakers in the country, with the Cocoa Research Institute also on our side. Then we'll be able to make this ontology received on a broader scale, led by the policymakers in this country. So it's a process that we have to do together with our partners.
Yeah. Now, I think you make a really important point with cocoa being such a political crop. It's important to get this whole process more broadly embedded in the policy arena in the different major producing companies as well. Are there other questions and comments people want to raise? Because if not, about drawing to a close. So I see one coming in here as a question from, is this in the chat already? Sorry. So what types of constraints do you anticipate in elaborating the technology? Can standardization mean that we lose issues that are not common to many localities? Are the specificities of cocoa geographical regions well captured? I'm not sure if anybody would like to speak to that question.
Yes, please. Actually, all constraints cannot be pre-configured or cannot be thought of at this point in time. So many issues will come up, and these will define the constraints that needs to be implemented in the ontology. And what the ontology has been defined or developed in such a way that various variabilities along geographical lines have been considered in developing the ontology. So say, for instance, the kind of fertilizer that is being used in, let's say, Nigeria is different from the type of fertilizer that is used in Ghana or perhaps in Cote d'Ivoire. So some of these things have been factored into the ontology. But, as time goes on, the more things comes up, the ontology would be improved upon, and further constraints and concepts will also be implemented in the ontology.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Abidemi. So Denis Sonwa, would you like to actually make any further comments? I see that question was from you.
No, I think he provided a good answer. I think the fear is that when you have standardization, you may lose some specificity, and then we need to make, by anticipation, make sure that we try to capture the different variety that we may have depending on the different geographical location. I think that is the point that I was raising. Over.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so I'd like to invite Pierre Brown to speak. Pierre from OLAM. You have a challenging question for us, I see in the chat. So would you like to go ahead and raise it directly?
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit noisy where I am. You would Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Pierre.
Yeah, I was just imagining being in the shoes of a stakeholder in Brazil, where they have years of working on cocoa and their own ontology. What's in it for me to switch to the new common ontology? How do you get me on board?
I'm probably going to put this question back to you, Pierre, but is there anybody on the panel who'd like to answer it first?
Can I?
Yeah.
Sander.
Okay. What I'm thinking is, imagine you playing a soccer and you play in the Premier League or you play in the Spanish League, and you have the opportunity to play at a continental level, where you're playing at the European level, where you play in the European Championship, which we know is the hallmark of soccer in football, or which is the hallmark of football when it comes to competition. And so the advantage, or what is in it for you, is actually getting more visible and getting much more publicity and aligning yourself to the approved standard that is widely acceptable by the community.
Sure. Arun, you want to join in?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of lines here. So it's like the philosophy of ontology interoperability. So if we're happy to, if the standards in Brazilian local ontology is good enough, we can easily map to this cocoa ontology, or we can adopt it. So that's there is. I think there will not be much difference between, let's say, our ontology and the Brazilian ontology.
So I don't know, Pierre, do you want to follow up at all? But I mean, I think the point would be that it would be great to see at this point, isn't it? I think it's really the right time to try and see where there are other vocabularies, ontologies already out there which might not match, and to see what match there is. I guess going back to Nick's point, this should be part of this theory of change you're challenging us with.
Yeah, no, my point is that it would take some adaptations and training. And I was thinking, maybe there's a need for a dictionary of sorts, maybe in some cases. People really have to be, the awareness has to be raised so that people see really the benefits and really understand how much that can really facilitate their work, and
sure.
The fact that the situation is becoming more international and so on. So I see it as a challenge in some countries where people are very entrenched in their ways of doing, and we just have to work on it.
No, thanks very much. So I think your point, it was a bit faint, but where people are working within a country and most of their communication is internal and not so much international, then of course I think there's more of an issue then maybe to try and convince people that of the worth of looking much more widely. So I see a comment now coming from Chris Turnbull. Do you want to open your mic, Chris, and join in?
Hi, hopefully I've pressed the right button.
Sure.
Yeah, it was just, I think we've touched on several points that were linked to sort of the wider adoption of the ontology, which I'm very keen on sort of working with data myself. And so, of course, one of those things is it needs that sort of continued curation, and projects are great at getting these things started, but of course they need that long-term support. So what's kind of the plan for continuing it? Is there one, or is it a case of get it ready and see who takes it on board? I was just wondering, the long-term sort of support.
Anybody on the panel who want to respond to that? Or I could have a go. But I think Chris, thanks very much for your comments. I think it's a really important one. I think obviously alignment with these other ontologies, which are then longer term things within the CGIAR, for instance, is important. But I mean, we have actually the CocoaSoils project is a 5-year project, but where we've set up experiments, which we know have to go on for at least 15 years, if not longer. So I hope that means that we'll be convinced as a community to building this community of research around those long-term trials, at least, which will give us some more security into the future. Are there any other questions and comments or things that the panelists would like to add? I don't see any hands raised just now. Nothing else coming in on the chat. In which case, I don't know, maybe I should hand back to Teresa to close the meeting. I think that we've had a good discussion. Thanks very much for the comments and suggestions that we've had. And we look forward to broadening the support among the research community very much around this ontology. So anybody who wants to get in touch, please direct your questions to anybody within the team, and we'll make sure that we feed back to you. And I think one of the next challenges is going to be developing the theory of change of how the ontology becomes adopted. So from my side, thanks very much indeed. And Teresa, would you like to take over and maybe close the meeting?
Yes, Ken. So I just want to say thank you to the team for making this happen, and for all participants, our partners, because I know most of us, and then those who are not within the closed circles, for making those contributions. I guess, as you rightly said, we need to pick this up, see how well we engage our partners, probably based on partner specific, use all the required platforms that we have, and to make things happen. Through the baselines that we conducted and some few data we have available within CocoaSoils, discussing with few partners, then you see the challenge of using 30 minutes to discuss one variable to be on the same platform. And I will really go for such a framework that when we speak about data within the cocoa sector, we are talking about the same thing. So thanks to everyone, and we hope to make this happen. So on that note, I would say a big thank you and have a nice day. Yeah. So Ken.
Thanks very much, Teresa.
Yes, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah.